Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English Over Tea, the podcast where we make learning English simple, natural, and enjoyable. I am Anna.
And I am Dan. A huge hello to all of our amazing listeners tuning in from all over the world today. We are so glad you are practicing your English with us.
Dan, I have to ask, what is that incredibly bright neon green object sitting on the desk next to your microphone? It is practically glowing.
This. Anna, this is a piece of my personal history. I was cleaning out my garage this weekend, digging through some old boxes, and I found this hat. It is from my very first job.
Oh my goodness, it is so green. And is that a cartoon turtle wearing sunglasses on the front?
Yes, it is. It's the official uniform hat of Tommy's Turtle Ice Cream. I was 16 years old and I had to wear this exact hat every single day. I almost threw it away, but looking at it brought back a flood of memories. Some of them are hilarious and some of them are deeply embarrassing.
I love it. First jobs are always like that. While you're actually living through them, they can feel incredibly stressful or difficult, but years later, they just turn into really funny stories.
Exactly, and I bet every single person listening right now has a memorable first job story. Listeners, we want to hear from you. What was your first job? Please tell us in the comments section below. Even writing just 1 or 2 sentences is fantastic English practice.
We really do want to hear your stories. Today, Dan and I are going to share our own first job experiences. And while we tell these stories, you are going to learn some incredibly useful English vocabulary. We'll focus on words and phrases related to work, finding a job, and those early days of your career. Nothing complicated, just natural English that you can use in real life.
That's right. So, Anna, I brought my terrible green hat, but let's start with you. Where did you work for your first job?
Well, unlike your glamorous ice cream shop, my first job was at a local movie theater. I was 17 and I desperately wanted to earn my own money to buy a car.
A movie theater? That actually sounds like a lot of fun. Did you get to watch free movies all day?
I thought I would, but the reality was quite different. Before I could even think about watching movies, I actually had to get the job. I remember being so nervous to apply for a job. To apply for a job means you officially ask for a job. You fill out a form, maybe send some information about yourself, and then you wait and hope they say yes.
I remember that feeling of waiting. It is nerve-wracking. So, did you get hired right away?
I did. I walked into the dark, sticky movie theater lobby, handed my application to the manager, and luckily, they needed help for the summer. It was a part-time position. Working part-time is perfect when you're young. You work fewer hours than a full-time job, maybe 3 or 4 hours after school.
Exactly. I usually just worked on the weekends. What about you?
I usually worked 3 days a week. Mostly, I was given the evening shift. A shift is the set period of time you work. Some people work the morning shift. Some work the evening shift.
Right. My shift was usually in the middle of the afternoon. But evening shifts at a movie theater must be incredibly busy.
Oh, it was wild. My shift was usually from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m., and my main responsibility was working at the concession stand. I had to sell popcorn, pour giant sodas, and hand out candy.
That sounds stressful. How was your very first day?
It was a complete disaster. I wanted to make a good impression. When you start somewhere new, you want to make a good impression, which means you want people to think positively about you. I wanted the manager to think I was capable and professional.
Oh no, I can hear the disaster approaching. What went wrong?
It was a Friday night. A huge action movie was premiering. There was a line of 50 people waiting for popcorn. I was trying to move so fast. I grabbed a massive, extra large cup, filled it to the very top with root beer, turned around quickly, and completely tripped over my own shoelaces.
No, please tell me you didn't drop it.
I dropped it. The entire giant cup of dark, sticky root beer went flying through the air and landed directly onto the manager's bright white shoes.
No way. On the manager's shoes? On your first day?
Yes, I was absolutely mortified. I just froze. The entire lobby went silent and everyone just stared at me.
I can only imagine how red your face was. What did the manager say?
He just looked down at his ruined shoes, sighed very loudly, and handed me a mop. It was the longest evening of my life. I spent the next 20 minutes scrubbing the floor on my hands and knees while the other workers took over the cash register. I felt terrible.
Mopping up sticky soda while 50 people watch you is definitely a character-building experience. Did you think about quitting right then and there?
I absolutely did. I thought I was going to be fired immediately, but I really wanted that car, so I stayed. And honestly, after that disaster, I wasn't really nervous anymore. The worst had already happened.
That is a very positive way to look at it. But I have to admit, my first day at the ice cream shop might have been just as chaotic.
Okay, so you had the bright green turtle hat. What actually happened on your very first day at Tommy's Turtle Ice Cream?
Well, much like you, I was given my uniform and immediately thrown right into the action. But my problem was not clumsiness, it was the sheer volume of information I had to memorize. We had 48 different flavors of ice cream. 48!
Wow, that is a massive amount of ice cream to learn.
Exactly, and it was not just flavors. We had complex sundaes, thick milkshakes, banana splits, and elaborate dessert waffles. The manager handed me a metal ice cream scoop, pointed to the front counter, and walked away. Within 10 minutes, an entire youth soccer team walked through the door, 20 screaming children all demanding sugar at the exact same time. I felt completely in over my head.
Oh, in over your head. That is a fantastic idiom for our listeners to learn today. What exactly does that phrase mean?
If you are in over your head, it means you are in a situation that is far too difficult or complicated for you to handle. Imagine stepping into a swimming pool and suddenly realizing the water is above your head and you cannot touch the ground. Everything just feels like too much to manage.
I felt exactly like that when I dropped the giant cup of root beer on my manager's shoes. You just want to disappear into the floor.
Exactly. So there I was, surrounded by 20 kids screaming for Bubblegum Blast and Fudge Mountain. I was trying desperately to scoop the ice cream, but the tubs were frozen rock solid. I was sweating nervously under my green turtle hat. Thankfully, my colleague David, who is a few years older and an absolute expert at scooping ice cream, stepped in. He did not yell at me or get annoyed. He just started taking the orders rapidly and showed me the proper technique for rolling the ice cream scoop so it would not hurt my wrist.
See, having a good colleague can make all the difference in the world when you're starting out.
They really can. Because of David, I survived the massive soccer team rush, and over the next few weeks, I became incredibly fast at the job. Nobody gave me a textbook on how to make a banana split. I learned entirely through hands-on experience.
Hands-on experience. That's when you learn by actually doing something in the real world, not by reading about it in a book or sitting in a classroom.
Precisely. You just get behind the counter, make mistakes, get a little messy, and figure it out as you go along. That's honestly the best way to learn any new job.
It really is. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about the less glamorous side of these early jobs. The stories are funny now, but some aspects are genuinely difficult when you're a teenager. For me, the hardest part was definitely the reality of the pay.
Oh, I know exactly where this conversation is going.
I was making minimum wage. For our listeners, minimum wage is the lowest amount of money that a company is legally allowed to pay you per hour. It's the absolute legal minimum set by the government.
And when you're working your very first job, minimum wage really doesn't feel like a lot of money, does it?
It really doesn't. I vividly remember the day I received my very first paycheck. A paycheck is the money you receive from your employer for the work you've completed. Usually, you receive it every 2 weeks or once a month. I opened the paper envelope, fully expecting to feel incredibly wealthy.
And let me guess, you did not feel wealthy at all.
I was in complete shock. I looked at the printed number and thought, wait, is this a mistake? I scrubbed sticky floors for 2 straight weeks. I smelled like fake butter every single day. My feet were completely covered in blisters. And this small amount is all I get?
I had the exact same reaction at the ice cream shop. You work so incredibly hard, your back aches from bending over the deep ice cream tubs, and then you see the actual amount of money after taxes are taken out. I think I used my entire first paycheck just to buy a pair of expensive, comfortable shoes so my feet would finally stop hurting.
That's a very wise purchase, actually. But as disappointing as that small paycheck was initially, it taught me a crucial life lesson. It taught me the true value of a dollar.
Yes, before I started working, if I wanted a new video game, I would just ask my parents for the money. It felt like money just magically appeared out of nowhere. But after working at Tommy's Turtle Ice Cream, I realized that a $60 video game equaled roughly 10 hours of scooping rock-hard ice cream.
Suddenly, you don't want to spend your hard-earned money quite as quickly, do you?
Not at all. It completely changed my perspective on buying things. Listeners, we would love to know about your experiences with this. Do you remember your very first paycheck? Was the amount of money more or less than you were expecting? Let us know down in the comment section.
Another incredibly tough part about first jobs is dealing with management, specifically dealing with strict bosses.
Oh boy, bosses can definitely make or break your daily experience at a job.
My manager at the movie theater, the one whose shoes I completely ruined on day one, was actually very strict. He had a firm rule that we were never allowed to lean against the back counter. If there were no customers to serve, we had to be actively cleaning something. If everything was already clean, we had to pretend to clean just to look busy.
The classic, if you have time to lean, you have time to clean rule. We had the exact same philosophy at the ice cream shop. My manager was also a bit eccentric. He was overly obsessed with the turtle theme of the restaurant. We had to greet every single customer by enthusiastically saying, "Welcome to the pond. What can we scoop for you today?"
Oh no, you had to say that out loud to grown adults?
Every single time. If the manager caught us just saying a normal hello, we would get a long lecture about maintaining brand identity. It was deeply humiliating, especially when my high school friends came into the shop to buy milkshakes.
Having to say welcome to the pond to your high school friends sounds like absolute torture. But honestly, despite the ridiculous uniforms and the very strict rules, we actually gained a significant amount of knowledge from these early experiences, didn't we?
We absolutely did. Even though first jobs can be difficult and embarrassing, they teach you so much. And the funny thing is, you usually do not realize how much you have actually learned until many years later.
That is so incredibly true. For instance, my job at the movie theater completely cured my fear of confrontation. Before that job, I hated dealing with upset or angry people. But when you're standing behind a concession stand and a customer is furious because their popcorn is cold, you're forced to learn how to de-escalate the situation and stay perfectly calm.
You learned how to deal with difficult people. That is an incredibly valuable life skill to have in your professional toolkit. For me, my time at the ice cream shop taught me immense responsibility and time management. If I was ever late for my afternoon shift, my manager would not yell. Instead, he would just stare at me and give me this extreme, cold, silent disappointment.
Oh, the silent disappointment face. I know exactly what you mean. That is always so much worse than someone actually yelling at you.
Always. Let me tell you, after seeing that disappointed face twice, I made sure I was never late to work ever again. I truly learned the importance of being punctual.
You know, Dan, looking back, I think a lot of people view their very first jobs as dead-end jobs.
Ah, a dead-end job. That is a great phrase in English. Let's make sure we explain what that means to our listeners. A dead-end job is a position that offers absolutely no chance for professional growth or advancement. There is no possibility of a promotion, you do not learn new technical skills, and there's no real future there. It feels exactly like a road that just suddenly stops.
Exactly. When you're a young student wiping down sticky tables at a fast food restaurant or sweeping up spilled popcorn in a dark theater, it can definitely feel like a dead-end job. You start to look around and wonder, is this my life now?
But here's the interesting secret. A first job is almost never actually a dead end, even if it completely feels like one at the time.
I completely agree with you. Why do you say that, though?
Because you're secretly learning all the time. You might think to yourself, I'm just scooping ice cream. But in reality, you are learning how to collaborate with a team, how to show up on time, how to follow complex instructions from a boss, and how to solve unexpected problems quickly.
That is a brilliant observation. The skills you're building are practically invisible, but they're very real and highly transferable to other careers. When you eventually get your second or third job in a completely different professional industry, you suddenly realize, oh, I actually learned all of those communication skills at my first terrible job. So even a job that looks like a dead end can teach you something extremely useful.
Always, if you were simply paying attention to the lessons. So, listeners, we want to know, did your very first job feel like a dead end, or did you actually enjoy the daily routine? And what is one specific thing your first job taught you? We really want to read your answers in the comment section below.
Okay, Dan, before we finish up our podcast today, I have a fun question for you. If you could build a time machine, go back in time and talk to your younger self on day one of your very first job, what exact advice would you give?
Oh, I love this question. First of all, I would say to myself, take a deep breath and relax. You will drop things, you will make a huge mess, and you will make silly mistakes. It's completely fine. Nobody expects you to be a flawless expert on day one.
That is fantastic advice. If I could talk to younger Anna, I would say, please ask questions. Do not pretend you understand how to use the cash register when you're actually completely confused. Your colleagues will actually respect you more for asking for help, not less.
Same here, but the reality is that the people who actively ask the most questions are usually the ones who learn the fastest. I would also tell my younger self to be extra kind to my colleagues. The people you work with have the power to make a difficult, stressful job much easier or much worse.
A good colleague can truly save your entire day, and a bad one can completely ruin it.
Exactly. All right, everyone, let's quickly review the essential vocabulary words we used in today's episode before we go.
First, we talked about applying for a job, which means to officially ask for a job by submitting your personal information or an application form.
Next, we had part-time, which refers to working fewer hours than a standard full-time career.
A shift is the set, scheduled period of time you're supposed to work, like a morning or an evening schedule.
A colleague is simply another person you work with at your job.
Minimum wage is the lowest possible legal pay allowed by the government.
A paycheck is the money you receive from your employer in exchange for your hard work.
To make a good impression means to act in a professional way that makes people think positively about you.
If you're in your overhead, it means you're in a situation that is too difficult or overwhelming for you to handle properly.
Hands-on experience is learning by actually doing the work in the real world rather than reading about it in a textbook.
And finally, a dead-end job is a position with absolutely no chance for future growth or promotion.
Excellent summary. Try using one or two of these brand new words when you write about your first job in the comments section below.
We hope you all enjoyed today's conversation, and we sincerely hope it brought back some fun, embarrassing, and valuable memories of your own first job.
If you enjoyed listening to this episode, please subscribe to the English Over Tea channel and give this video a like. It really helps us continue making more helpful English episodes for you.
And please share this episode with a friend who is also learning English, especially if they have a funny work story of their own to share. Thank you so much for spending your time with us today.
Keep practicing, keep learning, and remember that every job teaches you something valuable, even the ones that force you to wear a terrible green turtle hat.
Stay wonderful, everyone. We'll see you in the next episode.
Goodbye, everyone.